If you thought ditching alcohol meant giving up the fun, the freedom, the fulfillment, think again. This week on the Sober Life Rocks podcast, we're diving into what it really means to create a life that feels good without reaching for a drink. Get ready to explore how regulating your nervous system, shifting your mindset, and embracing holistic wellness can transform your sober journey into something that's not just sustainable, but truly joyful. Let's go beyond just getting through sobriety and talk about thriving in it.
Welcome to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. Whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you, and you are not alone. In today's world, networking, socializing, and celebrations often happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. Through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you, who choose not to drink or drink less, can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice.
Before we get started, Sober Life Rocks is hosting a conference, Amplify Sober Voices, on January 15th, 2026, where we're bringing together influencers and speakers, writers, and podcasters to reimagine what a truly inclusive alcohol-optional world looks like. And if you're interested in being a part of the growing movement we're seeing, we'd love to have you join us. Learn more at amplifysobervoices.com. I'm Maggie Klaassens, and I'm so glad that you're here today. And I'm talking today with somebody I have been fangirling for like a year, Maggie Klaassens, founder of the Sober Life Collective and host of the Sober Summit. Maggie is a certified gray area drinking coach and positive psychology coach who helps sober curious individuals break free from alcohol and reconnect with their true selves. Her approach? It's not about willpower or shame. It's about nervous system regulation, mindset shifts, and holistic wellness. Maggie has built a supportive, empowering community that offers coaching and courses that help people design alcohol-free lives they genuinely love. Today, we're diving into what it means to find empowerment, connection, and purpose in sobriety, especially if you're navigating that gray area where alcohol isn't running your life, but it's not helping either. Maggie, welcome so much to the program.
Oh, thank you so much, Margie, for having me. What a wonderful intro. I'm so honored to be here.
Absolutely. So I just want to start out by getting to know you a little bit. Like, tell me about you and your sober journey.
Yeah. Oh gosh, where to start, right? I think like many people, alcohol had been such a big part of my life for decades, right? If we really think about how long alcohol has been in our lives, many people can say it has been decades. And, I really, jumping into where I started, I think, I had the normal college experience of tapping into the rite of passage of being able to drink alcohol at any time. But I quickly graduated from that. And I felt very grown up when I decided in my early 20s to stop drinking liquor and beer. I was kind of over that party girl thing. And I decided to just only drink red wine, really, wine in general, right? And I felt very grown up and sophisticated. I thought, oh my gosh, this is me being a grown up, and look at me. And I loved learning about wine. I loved tasting new wines. It really became a huge part of my identity.
It's an art form, right?
It really was. I mean, I tell people that I could go to a wine store as if it was a bookstore, and I could sit there and look at, different wines and read about them. And, I enjoyed that so much. And I went to school for hospitality business management. So I worked in the hotel industry for a long time. And in that industry, it is very much a work hard, play hard mentality, like many, people in corporate America. But it just, for me, though, I felt that I was safe because I wasn't going to the bar. I wasn't binge drinking, right? But I did develop a habitual wine drinking problem. Every night, that was my go-to, right? But I really felt that I was being sophisticated and grown up. And when COVID hit, I had three young kids. I had three kids under the age of 4. And COVID hit, and I all of a sudden lost my job in hospitality. And overnight, the entire world shut down. And I found myself at home as a stay-at-home mom, almost a single mom, because my husband got very, very busy. He was in finance. And of course, the whole world was just chaotic at that time. And we couldn't go anywhere or do anything. We had no family around. And I started getting cases of wine delivered. And I thought, how amazing is this? This is just the coolest thing ever. But I really, even before that, really fell into mommy wine culture very hard. I had the tea towels and the rose all day t-shirt and the, signs in my kitchen. And I remember I had the glass of wine that said, mommy juice, right? I fell into that. And that just glamorized wine, it glamorized, drinking as a way to cope through motherhood. And it just, I found it very fun and funny at the time until it wasn't. And I slowly became very aware of how alcohol was impacting my life. And this is where that conversation of gray area drinking happens. Was alcohol a problem in my life? No. From the outside, no one would think I drank too much. I had 2 to 3 glasses of wine per night. However, alcohol was causing problems, right? I felt like I was stuck on this hamster wheel. I wasn't really enjoying where I was in life. I felt very stuck and that there had to be more. I felt like I didn't have a purpose. I wasn't sleeping well. Let's be honest. Alcohol doesn't allow us to sleep. I fell asleep very well, but at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up. So then I was
sweats.
Yes, I was tired during the day. I was irritable with my kids. I had no energy. I had this brain fog, Margie, that I just really thought was part of being a mother. Like I thought, oh, I had 3 kids. I'm going to have this brain fog forever. And I was very much into health and wellness at the time, working out and trying to eat right, but never wanted anyone to ever say, oh, well, maybe alcohol is the reason, right? I kept finding every other excuse than the alcohol. And even when I felt like it was a problem and I felt like I wanted to take a break, I would start putting these rules in place, right? I was only going to drink on the weekends and I was only going to have one. And by 4 o'clock on a Monday, that was over, right? And how quickly I gave in to that. I barely could make it through just one day. And I started recognizing that, right? Every time I would set this rule or guideline and I'd break it, the promise to myself that I'd made, that was soul crushing, really. I mean, it was just like, why can't I do this? I know I don't have a problem, but I also can't let go of it. What is happening here? And I just noticed myself getting very territorial over the wine. So, I always had to have some in the house. I was a total wine snob where I would not drink Yellowtail. Let's just be clear. I had to have
$2 Chuck.
No. That Trader Joe wine just wouldn't do it for me, but that was part of that story. I was telling myself that this made me grown up and very sophisticated, that I was, I wasn't just drinking to get drunk. I was drinking for the taste of it. And I was drinking, a certain, varietal or a certain vineyard. And it was part of the story I was telling myself of me being grown up and this being sophisticated and this being okay.
Even though I were the same person. I remember I would cook like special meals for me and my toddlers. Here's this steak au poivre that I had made for my toddler so that I could justify the beautiful bottle of wine that I wanted to drink.
It goes great with the Cabernet. Right. It's so funny you say that, is because, your brain starts making up all these excuses. And I think this is something that people just need to start noticing. What are the stories you're telling yourself, or what are the excuses that you're making to drink? And one of them was, oh, we're having Italian tonight. Well, who decided that? I decided that, right? And then I went and opened the bottle of red wine that went very good with my Italian food. So, I mean, we tell ourselves these stories, and it became a problem. And no, I didn't hit a rock bottom. And this is, again, where gray area drinking happens. We don't need to hit a rock bottom. We can absolutely make a life choice that says, I want to do something better for myself. I want to be better for myself. I want to be better for those around me. And everyone is making up all these excuses of why everything else in their life is a problem. But if they truly looked at their relationship with alcohol, and you took out that one thing, every single aspect of your life would improve. Your finances, your relationship, your community, your health, everything. Everything changes by giving up this one thing. And that's why I really, I work with clients to just tell them that you're not giving up something, you are gaining so much more. And I think that's the message we have to try to send in normalizing sobriety. I can make that life choice for myself.
I'm so glad you said that because I remember when I got sober, my parents gifted me, I now say, with an intervention. And it had come to the sort of final moment, and the interventionist pulled me aside and he said, What's getting in the way? And I said, nothing's going to change if I get sober. My asshole ex-husband's not going to stop being an asshole. And my, working 14 hours a day isn't going to change. And the fact that I'm a single mom supporting myself isn't going to change. Like none of these things is going to change. And you're taking away the one thing that allows me to do all this and cope. And 6 months later, I called him and I said, nothing of those things I rattled off changed, but everything changed. Because I now had the ability to navigate things with the clear head, and my emotions, while at first were all over the place, once I got through that knothole, I was able to navigate those challenging things so much better.
It's so amazing the gift that it gives you. And I agree. I think the emotion piece wasn't something I was prepared to deal with because, to be honest, I didn't feel like I was numbing myself. I didn't feel like I was reaching for wine out of anger. I was reaching for habitually as a way to connect with my husband, as a way to treat myself after a hard day's work, right? I didn't really feel like I was I was like an angry drinking. But you do have to learn how to deal with your emotions all over again. I've heard recently that, when alcohol starts being a part of your life, you stop developing emotionally. And so if you think about it that way, for the decades that I drank, all of a sudden now I have to learn how to deal with those emotions in a much better way. And that was part of my why, to be honest. So my daughter was, let's see, she was 6 at the time when I actually stopped, but this is, years it took me to actually stop. So she was about 4 or 5. And, she would see me open a bottle of wine every day. And I thought, what am I teaching her? I'm teaching her that this is how you cope with stress. This is how you cope with happiness, any type of emotion, high or low. This is your go-to. And I no longer wanted to do that. That was the one thing I could do absolutely right as a parent, because I'm not perfect, but that's the one thing I thought, okay, this I can do for them, is to show them there's a different way to cope with your emotions.
That's beautiful. So this whole conversation brings us into another area that I would love for you to share some with us about, and that's this whole notion of nervous system regulation, because emotional regulation, nervous system, like when we stop drinking, now we enter the world without this mask, without this like deadening blanket, and all of a sudden we're raw nerve endings. Fast forward 6 months, get through that, but we still now walk into that conference and there's the networking party and we're maybe filled with anxiety, or maybe we're an introvert and don't know how to cope with that. Like, what are some of the things that you teach and you work with people on?
Yeah. So I'd love to take a step back and just kind of explain what's happening. So oftentimes we talk about mindset, right? Changing the narrative, understanding your triggers and your whys. And while all that is very important, if your lid is flipped, if you are dysregulated in your system, none of that psychology is really going to work. And the best way to describe this is if you, because I have young kids, if you think of a toddler throwing a tantrum because they can't have a toy, nothing I say in that moment is going to appease them. They are having a tantrum. They want that toy, right? But if I can regulate them in the sense of, rubbing their back, talking to them softly, maybe handing them, a milk or some water, right? Something that allows them to kind of calm themselves and pause. Once they get regulated, then I can explain to them why they can't have the toy in a way that
Mm-hmm.
they can understand. And that's what's happening to us as adults. So if we think of ourselves as small children having these tantrums, when we get stressed out, what do? We automatically reach for alcohol. That's going to be our go-to. But really what we need to train ourselves to do is to take a moment and pause. And this comes with practice. But we have to understand what's truly happening in our body. 80% of our signals is coming from our gut to our brain, while 20% is coming from our brain to our gut. So it's happening in our bodies first before it hits our brain and we're thinking, I'm stressed out or this is bothering me. We get, maybe we get sweaty or our blood pressure goes up or we can just feel our nerves tingle, right? There's this sensation happening in our body where we're stressing out. And those are the signs that we need to look for, where we pause and we think, okay, what do I truly need in this moment? And there's a great acronym that I teach people all the time, which I'm sure you're familiar with, which is HALT. So am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Or am I tired? And the majority of the time, one of those four things is what your body truly needs. But it takes practice to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to pause and really ask myself, what is it that I truly need right now? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need a hug? Do I need to go take a nap? Right? Do I need to just go and get a snack? And oftentimes, once we do that and we calm our nervous system, then we can deal with, okay, I don't actually want that drink. That's not going to help solve the problem. But in that moment, it's very hard to do because our brains have been trained over the last, decades after decades to go, okay, this is our go-to. And it's about rewiring our brains. And we are fortunate enough to be able to do that. The fact that we can rewire our brains. So if over time you say, no, I'm not a drinker anymore, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use all these tools in my sober toolbox to help me get my brain back online so that I can make a logical decision, then that over time will just train and you won't even think about the alcohol anymore. But we have to calm that toddler first before we do that.
I love that so much. Like, yes, I have definitely worked my own program with the HALT acronym, but I just realized I just put this together. When I'm going to a conference, I get off the flight, I catch the Uber to the hotel, I walk into the hotel, and there's the ubiquitous bar, and all of my work colleagues are there. Margie, come over here, come have a drink with us. And in that moment, I am definitely hungry. I am definitely like pissed off at something about the travel. I'm feeling isolated just because I've been like, I am something of an introvert. And so I feel, a little bit lonely in the moment. Even if people are greeting me, I don't know, I just feel alone in a crowd at that moment. And I'm exhausted. And so what I've learned to do is rather than roll my roller bag over and go hang with people is like, give me a minute. I'm going to go check into my room, go upstairs. And I do. I calm myself down. I get myself into that place where I can like, and then I head back down to the hotel bar. And there I'm able to have my non-alcoholic drink and gather with people in a little bit more of a sane way. But I hadn't really put together that's exactly what I was doing for myself.
Yeah, it's much easier to make those decisions of, okay, I'm going to stick with my plan. I'm going to have that non-alcoholic drink. It's much easier to do that when our bodies are regulated. And so if we're at all feeling dysregulated, and let's be honest, we live in a world where stress is everywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. And that's life gets lifey is what I say. And so that's never going to change. Whether you're drinking or not, we have to learn other tools to regulate our nervous system. Alcohol cannot be our go-to all the time. It is just hurting us. And so having those tools and taking a moment to go pause and take a break, then you can actually make those informed decisions for yourself. And that feels really good. Let's be honest. Like once you do that, you never regret following through with the plan, right? You always regret not. So we just have to get there.
So I want to talk to you about like your personal application of this. Like, do you have routines or non-negotiables that you incorporate into your life?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I have found that when I start showing up for myself and I follow through with the promises that I make, those are the times where I can deal with life. And so this is what I call and is emotional sobriety, right? This is where we're building up resilience so that we can handle those life pressures on a day-to-day basis. So in the morning, the way that I show up for myself is I wake up early so that I give myself enough time to get ready and have my time in the morning before my little ones wake up. If I don't do that, I've noticed that I'm stressed and we have a very chaotic, crazy morning, right? So do I always like waking up early in the morning? No, but once I do, I feel much better, right? I have a much better morning. It starts my day off so much better. So that's number one. Number two, working out, right? Moving your body is very, very important in the sense that, right, not only is it a de-stressor, but I work out now, not for the physical aspect of it, but for the mental aspect of it.
Mm.
I understand now, and this is again, you have to do things and just get curious. This whole idea of sober curiosity, just get curious, do something and say, how did that make me feel? How was my day based off of the thing that I just did? Right. And so working out every morning and giving myself time to do that is I just do 30 minutes. It's not anything big. It's just enough to set me up for the day. Nutrition is another one. So while I'm not perfect, I definitely make sure that I'm maintaining a level of, my blood sugar level is maintained throughout the day, because when it spikes, that's when cravings hit. That's for not for me for alcohol anymore, because I'm far enough down the road, but in early sobriety, it sure would be. It all is also, big one for those, grabbing the chips or the ice cream or anything else, right? It's when our blood sugar spikes. That's when we start craving the processed food and the things that aren't good for
Mhm.
us. Mindfulness is another one. So my favorite practice is to ground. So getting outside, putting my feet on the earth. There's a great documentary out there about grounding. I actually have grounding sheets, but just a way to just step outside. So much of our days are spent inside on the computer or, in
Mhm.
isolation, working very hard, and we don't oftentimes get outside. So just being out in nature and going for a 10-minute walk can make all the difference in your day. And then, again, I think it's just a matter of getting back to the basics. So sleep is also really important to me. Would I love to stay up late after my kids go to bed and binge watch Netflix and do all the things? Absolutely. But then I'm not getting enough sleep and I'm not setting myself up for my day tomorrow. So I
Mhm.
almost think of like, what can I do right now in this moment for future Maggie? Right. And I'm
Mhm.
always grateful to myself for doing those things. I always feel good for, doing the next right thing. That's what I
Yeah.
always think, right? What is the next right thing that's going to set me up for my day or in my journey? And I look at this as a developmental journey. This is no longer an alcohol-free journey for me. Alcohol was just the outer layer, and it has opened up the doors to so many other things for me. And now it's about how can I continue to learn and grow and develop and be the best version of myself. Am I perfect? No, but that's what I strive for.
I love that. And it's so simple. I mean, nothing you said is complicated. Nothing you said is too much. Like the ordinary person can do some of those things. And I feel like, our audience is really about the professionals and in their workplace and in their travel for meetings and conferences. And all of those things are things that we tend to throw out the window when we're on the road or when we're under a lot of pressure at work. And just like you said earlier about alcohol being the thing that we think makes us cope better, but actually gets in our way, I feel like when we throw those things out the window, we're not saving more time. We're hurting ourselves and not able to be our best selves at that conference or at that big work meeting.
I mean, these conferences, I've been there. Listen, in the hospitality world, they sure know how to throw a lot of money at these conferences, and they're very boozy. And yes, they're a lot of fun, but how much do you actually take away from those conferences? How
Yeah.
much are you actually learning? What connections are you truly making? The connections I find in sobriety are so much stronger, right? I'm picking up on little things when I meet people that really connect us, right? I'm not focusing on the, I don't know, the high level stuff. I'm really actually getting to know them as people and thinking of how can we collaborate or work together, or how can we help each other, right? It's a
Hmm.
different connection that I find. And also, you're walking away. It's kind of like when you go on vacation and you drink a lot. You never come back. You come back and you need a vacation. It's the same thing with these conferences. How
Yeah.
often do you come back from these conferences and feel like, gosh, I really need a vacation afterwards? Instead of saying, wow, that really inspired me and motivated me. I can't wait to get to work. Right. And that's what they want you to do. But, I don't think throwing alcohol at you really helps. But, it's,
Absolutely.
again, the stress is always going to be there. So in, in in these environments, we have to have the right tools to regulate our nervous system and excuse me, and help cope with that.
Yeah. So, with the last little bit of time, I do want to talk about your journey to become a sober coach and then build the Sober Summit and all of the things that you're doing to really serve this community.
Yeah, so I think like many people, when we discover sobriety, we want to jump on a soapbox and tell the world, and I really wanted to give back in some way. Excuse me. So I started the Sober Summit because it was something I thought was missing in the space. I had attended a lot of health and wellness summits, and I went to go find one myself when I was just 6 months into my sober journey, and I couldn't find one. And I thought, oh gosh, there really should be something out there called the Sober Summit. And so I
And
pitched
what
the
is
idea.
that?
So it's an online 3-day event. It's free. I have 24 speakers over 3 days who tell their stories, and then they each have a topic and resource to share. So it really is a sober experience. So it is, we've had our fourth one, right? So we have one almost every year. One year I did have two, but it's a way for people who are both sober curious and who are already on their sober journey to find the resources, the motivation, the connection that they need to continue on in this journey. Because like I said,
Mhm.
it is a continuous journey. It is not something that you just do and then you're like, okay, I'm done. I did that. Check it off the list. No, it's something you need to continue to develop and grow and connect with people and stay in there. I never want to be complacent in my journey. I never want to get back to where I was. So I like to stay connected. I like to continue to learn from other people. I like to continue to hear other people's stories that inspire me and remind me of where I came from and where I want to go and what I'm trying to be and who I want to show up as. And so it's really important to me to bring together resources that do that for people as well. So it is an online event that we have every year, and we have some fun too. I mean, we have giveaways and prizes and bingo and digital goodie bag, and it's a really fun time. So I just, like you, I want to normalize sobriety, make it a life choice that people can make and not be judged for it, and that they
Mhm.
can have a lot of fun doing it. And you can find people who are just like you. You are not alone. There's a whole world of people out there that understand what you're going through, even if your friends and family and coworkers don't get it. There are people out there that are making this choice. And it's time for us to start showing up as rebels in that way, right? And to go against the grain and do something that really benefits us, right? It is shocking to me why you get the response you do when you say you're going alcohol free. It is just jaw dropping, that people would question you and force you to not do that, right? I think
It's the only drug that if you don't take, people look at you like you're crazy.
yes, it's insane, and I've had
It
that
is.
happen to me. It's
Yeah.
just incredible, and but it's about showing up authentically and being the best version of yourself. And I think we have to start thinking about whether alcohol is benefiting us or not. So yes, the Sober Summit is something that I offer every year. And then I do have a community. So I think a really big piece of this is connecting with people who are like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And, if for me, my friends and family probably will never understand, right? The whole concept is, well, you weren't that bad. No, I wasn't your typical, don't identify with being an alcoholic. I didn't hit rock bottom, but I was fortunate enough to grab myself before I did, because let's be honest, alcohol is an addictive substance. So if I fast forward, 20 years from now, where would I be? And I don't want to find out. So, I think we have to applaud people who are saying no now and not hitting rock bottom. And that, I think a lot of people wait till they hit rock bottom. You don't have to wait till you hit rock bottom. You can get yourself out now and live this most authentic life. And it is just such an incredible life. So I have a community called the Sober Circle. And it's just an amazing community of people. And so that's been growing, and that's amazing. And then I offer coaching as well. So lots of fun things to come. I've got so many ideas, right? I just want to help people in this space. So, if there's any way I can support anybody, I'm happy to, because I just think the world needs more people who are singing the praises of sobriety and showing you how much fun it can be and how amazing this life is.
I totally agree. Maggie, I love your spirit. And I'm so bummed that this is right after your Sober Summit. So people have to wait another year. But tell me, this Sober Circle, like what happens in that community?
Yeah, so it's really important for me to have that connection piece. So I've got 3 other coaches that coach underneath me, or with me, I should say. And so we each offer a connection call every week. So you have 4 different opportunities right now to get on the call with the certified alcohol-free coach. And it's not a coaching program. It's just a way to connect, right? And if you want to share a win, or you're struggling with something, you have peer support, you have a coach's support there to just offer guidance. And then we also have a bunch of resources in there. And then you have access to previous Sober Summit content. So there's a whole library filled with such amazing interviews from very prominent people in this space who are sharing their inspiring stories and their knowledge. And again, I think it's just an education piece. Like, how can we educate ourselves on what alcohol is doing to us and how we can be better people without it? So, there's a lot that goes into it. We have a lot of fun in there, but it's just a way for people to connect.
That's amazing. I mean, I just want to thank you, and just your spirit and authenticity and approach about just not having to hit rock bottom, not having to be, down and out in order to reclaim your life. I just think that message needs to get out there more. And I'm so grateful to you for coming on and talking about that, to talking about like how we can build the life that we chose, that we want. I didn't even know I had choices. And in sobriety, I have so many choices. So thank you. Thank you for all of that.
Oh, thank you. I told you before we got on, I love meeting people in the space who are, singing the praises of sobriety, like I said, and just enjoy it as much as I do. Cause again, I think it takes anybody, right? Anybody who goes on this path and becomes alcohol free, you can be a lighthouse for other people just by showing up as you. And I want people to know that. Like, you don't have to be on podcasts or write books or be a coach. You can just be you and change somebody else's life just by showing up authentically as you. So thank you.
1,000%. And so to the listeners, like, this is my challenge to you. Get curious. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if you had a life that you didn't feel like you needed the escape? Maybe that means slowing down. Maybe it means questioning your habits. But whatever it looks like, don't go it alone. And if, as Maggie said, you want to amplify your own voice, and if you want to be part of a movement that's changing the conversation about alcohol, I invite you to join us at Amplify Sober Voices on January 15th. Visit amplifysobervoices.com to learn more. But finally, if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and please share it, because without your help and without people like Maggie and sharing the word about her programs, like we can't make the change that we're all so passionate about making. Thank you so much, Maggie.
No, thank you.